Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and this is going to be so cool tonight because let me tell you, it's only fitting to have two of the most important characters, in my opinion, on Little House on the Prairie because Laura Ingalls needed a rival and she needed a husband. And of course, her rival was the great and one and only Alison Arngrim, who is just tremendous. And then her husband on the show, who played Almanzo, is the one and only talented Dean Butler. And it's a pleasure to have you both on again. I had you both separately, but I got to tell you, it really is fitting because you probably didn't realize this at the time, but really the characters you played have such an important part in that series because, again, Laura had to have a rival, and your character, Nell, was the rival, and your character, Almanzo, was her husband. So it's great to have you both here together. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Without us, Laura Ingalls would have had nothing to do all that.
Allison, funny thing is if I recall, when you got the role for Now, of course, your father told you it wasn't going to last. He thought it was terrible. He gave it maybe 6 months. So tell that story a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it's true. My father was a manager and old hand in Hollywood. He'd been on theater in Canada and Broadway in New York and had been a manager for some time in California. Many actors besides, me. I was a latecomer to his pool. And he'd seen things come and go, generally had a pessimistic view of things in show business. And he just stood there and see me. They're finishing off them sets and said, I don't know why they're spending the money on this show. This thing can't go 6 months. Well, I mean, seriously, who's going to watch this? And he said, better get it while you got it because there's no way this thing's going to last. Little House on the Prairie, get out of here. So there you go. We learn not to take him to the racetrack. I'm just saying.
Right. And I think I could be wrong, Allison, but I think maybe your first or second episode, you knew that something was special with this because you came to school and some girl called you kind of a mean name. So you knew that this had to have been something that was going to.
Well, wait a minute, Mike. Someone called her a mean name. Remind me, who is that?
It was a classmate. Yeah.
It was a girl.
I know she called all kinds of people mean names, but I don't know about.
Oh yeah, first day. Country Girls is just here. I had to go to school.
Country Girls. Well, that was sort of it's not a nasty name, but a sort of a slur.
I show up at school the next day and people had seen it. And I'm like, well, this should be exciting. I've just been on TV. Maybe, people compliment me. And a girl on the upper landing, I believe who's named Jody, who's very popular. And she screamed at the top of her lungs, rhymes with which, starts with a B. Yeah. From the upper landing. It's like, there's no one who missed it. And I realized and that was the day I looked up and said, thank you, and took a bow and walked away. And said, well, here we go.
And Allison, it's not easy, though. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but in the beginning, it's not easy to play a character like that because for the most part, your character is going to be hated most of the series. True. She's not going to be loved. And like anything else, you appreciate it more as you get older. But when you're playing it at the time and you're a young kid, while it was fun, I'm sure it couldn't have been easy at times either.
Well, I was lucky in that I had grown up watching TV shows and movies where I really liked the villains. So part of me is like, okay, well, it's the villain. It's the villain. People are going to hate me. That's going to come with it. But I liked villains. So I kind of was like sort of thrilled that being, and then as it went on, I mean, here I am 50 years later and the people come up and go, I love you. I loved hating you, but I love you now. So it's all worked out. But yeah, it was a little weird. The first few days back at school, I was like, is anyone ever going to speak to me again?
Mike, and I know Allison would agree with this. I mean, the best writing that gets done for the villains. Yeah. Because they are the fly in the ointment. They are the problem. They are the thing that you have that has to be overcome. And the best drama, the best hero has to have the worst villain to deal with in order to mean something. So Allison and her wonderful mother, Catherine McGregor, really just had a field day with this. And it's true that Alison created an iconic presence on television. I mean, who at Alison, you're in the beginning of this, you're on 12, 11, 12?
Just turned 12.
Yeah. And you very quickly become one of the most identified villains on television. And there was just sort of the way you brought this sort of cold, ruthless quality to what you were doing. And as it went on, I think you started to sort of twist the knife a little bit more and enjoy it. But in the beginning, it was pretty cold, ruthless.
Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. and so well done.
And the thing of it is, too, what people forget is back then as well, you didn't have cable boxes yet. So there were 3 big stations, ABC, CBS, and NBC, but there were really only like 14 channels, maybe even 12 channels. So, sure. I mean, you came at a time, too, where your face was going to be on TV and people were going to watch it all the time because there wasn't the demand back then for the channels that we see now, which is just crazy. So that also helps a lot, too.
People watched as a community, as a country. It's like the number for like Roots, where they talk about how many millions of people all together watching. And Little House was a show people watched together. There was a community of viewers. So it was like 1/3 of the possible viewing audience, and they were glued to you.
Right, and that's what Michael really wanted. That this was a huge part of his desire for the program, is that families, groups of friends, young and old, would sit together and watch the program and have something to talk about afterwards. And to Michael's enormous credit, he found ways week after week after week to develop scenarios in stories that would get people talking to each other. And this was the great gift of the program, and in that conversation, people became bonded to this. And I think they sensed the overarching goodness and importance of the program. I mean, we're talking about being the villain, but the villain is allowing the lessons to be learned. And those lessons are so important to the overarching love that people have for the program and why they come back to it again and again and again and share it with their children. And it's that safe place that people come to because they know the lessons are good.
Right. And let me ask you both this. You tell me what you think. But when I look at Michael Landon, he may have been the greatest TV dad in the history of TV. And the reason I say that is, and there have been so many great ones, don't get me wrong. I mean,
absolutely.
To pick one is kind of hard. But when you think about his character, and he just made you love that dad, like you wanted your dad to be that dad. He was so about his family and his friends. Like you really never saw him do anything wrong in that series. He was always there to support everybody. And, even when, the so-called bad people on the show, he would try to find some decency in them as well. He really was like your ultimate TV dad.
Alison, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I hear from people all the time is they said, if my parents had been the Ingalls, they would have understood me. I would have had a better relation with my family. I could have told them things I couldn't tell my real parents. Because that's true. Even when someone's done something wrong, is in trouble, has done a bad thing, pause, like, tell me about it. Why did you do this? And tries to understand what happened, what went wrong. And boy, millions of people definitely plugged into that he was always presenting the loving side and trying to accept people and bring people into the fold.
Right. I'm also going to add, Mike, and I think this is a really important part of what Michael did, is the character was not bulletproof. He made mistakes. He said things or did things that he thought were right that maybe didn't end up being right. And I think that one of the great things about what Michael did for all fathers is he made it possible to say, I made a mistake.
Right.
I didn't do this right, or I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I mean, he had his always well-intentioned. I think there were scenes that he did that where he had the character say and do things in the interest of the drama. And I think as he'd reached a point in his career where he sort of knew he could say and do almost anything. But he could say and do things in the interest of driving the drama and making the drama work that would make other characters look better in the moment. And his character would gracefully, maybe not always easily, but he would find a way to be okay with that. And I think that's very humanizing.
Well, how many times did Caroline catch him where Charles,
all the
now
time.
you know that's all right. So, he got busted all the time. I'm still laughing over the one where he tried to get out of doing dishes. And Mom Caroline says, it's in the Bible that men do dishes. He says, what? And she says, yes, I shall turn Israel like a man turns a plate wiping a dish. And he's like, I mean, Caroline would always come around and go, no, Charles, actually, you're going to have to go back and take that one back. And he would go, well, you're right. He would say, okay, I acted in haste. And he absolutely.
Right.
That was a hugely admirable quality that people really just adored.
Yeah,
right.
No, I think absolutely. I think that's a huge part, Mike, of what made Michael and Karen beloved television parents. Both of them have numerous times won those contests that are done on Mother's and Father's Day of the all-time great parents. They've both been there, and I think, it's a tribute. It's a tribute to both of their performances that they did this, and I think it's the material that Michael delved into here made it possible to tell those kinds of stories because it was real. It was sentimental, to be sure, but it was grounded in a kind of reality, a simple reality that allowed people to relax and trust that they were getting something that was authentic and truthful and real and meaningful. And I just think this is a huge part of the overarching success of the program. And they were so wonderful together doing that.
Yeah, they definitely were. Now, Dean, where Alison, she came onto a new series, so they all got a script. They were told how they wanted their characters to play. But you came at a time where the series had been established. It had been on, I think, 5 years already.
Right.
And you had never read the books or ever watched the show. So you kind of went into it not really knowing what to expect. So how difficult was that? Because you got to, get used to a new cast. You got to learn this character. And your character is important because, listen, everybody in TV, I think, loved Laura Ingalls. So your character really the audience really had to buy into that character or it wasn't going to work.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that any time you're going to put a beloved character with another character that in a romantic sense, I think that's a potentially very dicey situation. And because you really don't know until it happens, how an audience is going to react. And this is why we have casting directors, because casting directors sit in their offices and they meet actors, and they are the ones who have to assess in a matter of seconds how this person is going to be perceived. And they have to trust their sense of what they're getting from the person and have the confidence to know that if they feel that way, in all likelihood, the audience is going to feel that way. Now, they're not going to be right 100% of the time, but I think one of the reasons people become successful as casting directors is because they have this capacity to put themselves in the mindset of the audience. And what is the audience going to perceive about this person? For me, coming in, I was so thrilled to have the opportunity to be a part of something like this. My agent at the time was a wonderful wonderful person in the industry at International Creative Management. She was head of their television department. Her name was Ina Bernstein. She was really iconic in the, she represented people like Robert Mitchum and Lee Remick and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And just wonderful, wonderful actors that she represented. And she told me even before the first audition happened, that if you ever get the opportunity to be on Little House on the Prairie, I'm going to push for that, because I cry watching this show every week and I love it. And Michael Landon's wonderful. And, this is a show that you should be a part of. And I think she read my temperature. She got a sense of who I was. And I think she knew that this was good casting for me. So when this happened, when this opportunity came up, she really believed in it and she pushed on it. And I just am so grateful. Here I am in college. I'm in my senior year, University of the Pacific. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen once I get my diploma. And to have this, I was hired to do this 2 weeks before graduation. I mean, my life was pretty serendipitous, I have to say. So stepping into this was a very welcoming cast. And Alison knows this. I mean, from seeing people come into the program. I mean, yes, there would be little moments that might occur and, little things. But overall, coming into this cast, people were rooting for you to succeed. Everyone wanted you to be good. No one was saying, "Oh, I hope this person," because that's everybody's job.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no backstabby stuff. There was
no, there really wasn't.
I not the welcome wagon? Am I not the welcome wagon?
You are the welcome wagon. Well, you were then. Now you were a really. I have to say, Alison. I mean, if anyone else is listening, I don't know, but you were a really quirky welcome wagon. I mean, I just remember you. I remember meeting you for the first time. You had you were wearing a sleeveless T-shirt and white sleeveless T-shirt and black jeans and black Converse high tops. And you had this dark eyeshadow going. And you drove up. What was it? Was it I have the recollection of a black and white, but was it a red and white Ranchero?
1957 red and white Ranchero pickup truck.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, you look at that and say, who is this girl? And what is she all about? And I think it was just very easy to, I didn't really know in my life anyone like Alison growing up. It just wasn't, that was not what Alison's way that she occurred in the world was not something that I had spent a lot of time with. So I was, I didn't know quite what to think. But as the years have gone by, Mike, and Alison described herself, and I think she's right. Alison has been and continues to be the welcome wagon of our cast. If there's an opportunity for people to be included, Alison is the first one to reach out to include people and give them invite them to an opportunity. Now, what happens after that, it's going to be sort of up to the person who's invited in, but everyone can be invited in. And I think that Alison makes our events and the things that we do together as a cast very easy for people to step in and feel like they can be a part of. And I think that's one of the reasons why when people come to our events, it's generally a good experience because we're a pretty easy, welcoming. We want to have a good experience, and we want the people to come to see us to have a good experience.
And I hear this often, and it's so true, is so many people that play villains on TV, you will always hear that outside of their character, they are the nicest people in the world, which tells you that they are just phenomenal actors, because to be able to make people believe that you're this horrible person and you're devious and spiteful and all this stuff, and then you realize that they're just wonderful people, that's what typifies a great actor, in my opinion.
There's always a smile behind the eyes in Alison's nastiness. You always felt like she was having a good time doing it. And that was so important. Now the character, and we could talk about, the actress that was brought in to be a character that would replace Alison.
Yeah.
Replace Nellie with Nancy, and an entirely different take on the character for her own reasons.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to feel like she was copying. But Alison, how did you, when you watched Alison Balson work, what were you thinking?
I was fascinated because I thought, well, how they go do this? Okay. And then when I met her, I like what she's doing. I said, well, there's a heck of a choice. Wow. She's just going with like scary crazy. And then I met her and she was so smart. She did the same thing, 11, 12 years old, young kid. And she spoke like, she was 37, explaining things like this.
Yeah.
Well, I had grown up watching you, and it's like y'all not grown up yet. What you okay? And she's saying, well, I didn't want to copy you, so I went. And she said, well, you went with bitchy, and I decided to go with psychotic. And I went, and you have nailed it. And she said, no, it's a choice. She said, I wanted to do something completely different. So I thought, well, what if she was just really disturbed and it was like this? And I was like, genius.
Yeah.
And then when we had the one episode together, of course, perfectly everything complimented and everything. So yeah, I thought brilliant and so young to have like went, well, wait, I could do that. And so it was very, very clever. Yeah. Now there's quite the war in the fans who are like, no, Nancy, it's not the same. There could only be one. It's not Highlander.
Yeah, and she's not the same. She's absolutely not the same by choice. She's not the same.
And I think they complement each other. And I'm like, collect all 12. It's fine. And yeah, it's there was always, like I was, because the villain role models I often looked up to were people were clearly having, the whole Captain Hook kind of ideal where there's like a little fun behind it. And I always thought, well, that looks good. And all the people I've met who have played villains, I've met Patty McCormick, I've met Julie Dawn Cole, Veruca Salt, and they are all absolutely darling. Everyone I've met has been played like a horrible person. Has been said.
The other thing, awesome. Yeah, it's awesome that you were able to do that. And you're probably right. Well, they also often say that people who are wonderful comedic actors are also terrific dramatic actors, because the comedy is harder in many ways. And it reflects a range of capability, which is pretty special.
Now, Dean's, of course, like the bravest man in show business, because, like you said, coming into a show that's already going, and everyone's waiting to see Laura's husband. As you said, they have all this invested. This is Laura, who they grew up with, and they've also read the books. They know that, well, her name's Laura Ingalls Wilder. They know some dude named Wilder is going to show up and marry her. Someone has to do this. Someone has to. Almanzo has to arrive, eventually marry her, and they've been waiting. Some of them going all the way back to when they read the books, like in the 50s. They've been waiting for Almanzo to show up and have had ideas in their heads since childhood for the books, ideas in their head since the show started. And he has to show up and be that guy and somehow pull it off that they don't, take him out and shoot him, and that they like him and they accept him and make it work. Yeah. And that's got to be the scariest proposition imaginable. I don't know that I would have done it. I would have gone, I'm not taking that job.
Well, I think, the fact that when you're stepping into something like that, I don't know that those metrics are things that you're really thinking about actively at the time. I think you're thinking about how fortunate you are to get this opportunity. I think that I recognized, as anybody in that situation would recognize, is that the job was to, the challenge was to, look, at the beginning, I was sort of a benign object, that's sort of that's what Almanzo was in the very beginning. And Laura had to drive the relationship, at least thematically, for the audience. The audience had to always feel that Laura was the yearning one and Almanzo just hadn't gotten it yet. If it had gone the other way, that would have been a very different set of. I mean, Michael never would have written it that way to begin with,
Right.
because Laura was his protagonist. But it was very important that Laura drive the tempo of the relationship. It had to be her idea. Now,
Right.
once he got the idea, then it was okay. But it couldn't be. There could be nothing sort of casually flirtatious about it. That would not have been a good thing at all. And Michael knew that really well.
Right. And the thing of it is, Dean and Allison, while the show was enjoyable and fans loved it, there were moments in the episodes where fans were going to cry sometimes. Fans were probably going to watch an episode, and when the episode's over, they're still crying because there were a lot of sad moments in that show. It dealt with death. It dealt with alcoholism. It dealt with racism. It dealt with so many things. And it was a tough show at times. I mean, like, it really showed you that it was not an easy time in so many people's lives. Like, they really struggled to live every day. It was a tough world back then. And, that's what they teach you a lot when you're watching the show and you're reading the books. I think Laura did a great job with that, is that you see that it was a very tough time to grow up.
Well, there's no question about that. And I think what you're alluding to, Mike, and I think one of the great lessons of the show, one of the reasons why people continue to watch it and love it, is the grace of the characters who have to deal with these crises around them. That there is a grace and an understanding of how you cope. Now, you had Mrs. Oleson, who would lash out at people when things didn't go well, but that was clearly not the example of how we should behave. It's a way to behave, but then you get to see the results of that behavior. And the way Michael wrote Little House, you also got to see the results of graceful behavior. And I think that he was teaching all the time in this. And look, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I mean, this was not, there were a lot of people watching other things. We weren't the only thing that people were watching. Michael did say one time, and he said so many things that are memorable, but he said, I know that there's a whole segment of the audience that couldn't care less about what we're doing here. But I also know there's another huge portion of the audience who can't get enough of what we're doing, and they are going to be with us for a long time. And Michael, to his credit, I mean, look, every episode is not perfection. There are, it's a process, and there are spectacular episodes of Little House, and there are good episodes of Little House. They're okay. But what you always got was that there was this effort to create something that was special. They're not all going to be perfect, but the ones that were really amazing were all-time wonderful television that, as you say, Mike, gets the tears flowing. And that's part of the joy of watching the show, is that music, that David Rose music that comes in at that moment. Those strings play and the tears are coming. You can't help it. It's primal. David took you there. He took us all there. David made the villains more villainous, and he made the sensitive, loving, gentle moments more sensitive, loving, and gentle because of the way he scored those moments. And he gets a huge dose of the credit for why the impact of the show was so good, because his clarity, emotional clarity, was so strong and so rich. And he was such a romantic, sensitive guy. It just was all over everything that he wrote. And he really made the lessons easier to understand.
Yeah. Now, I got to tell you this. This show was obviously successful. This show obviously did great in the ratings. But here's the validation, I think, for both of you and the entire cast. when you had your 50th anniversary. And I think you had about over 18,000 people show up. And I think from like 27 or 28 countries. So this show wasn't just popular in the United States. Everybody loved this show. And when you saw that crowd that day, that had to just make you both feel like so special and so like it made you feel like this was something that, you will take with you forever. Because I mean, seeing that, you can't put a price tag on though. People showing up that day from all different countries to honor you and your fellow cast members.
Of course.
And they just kept coming. You'd sign out or talk to someone. They're from Peru and they're from Colombia and they're from that. It's just everywhere. And it just went on. And then other events we did through the year, the same thing. These people would come from all over the world. And I just got home from France and had everyone telling me how I've now watched the entire 10 years of the show for the 5th time all the way through. And they can't get enough of it there. And they're saying the same things about it making them cry. And they're still watching it in all these other countries. I'm getting mail from all over the world. It's this phenomenon that has touched so many people. And it does blow our minds that 50 years later, people from all over the world cannot get enough of this thing that we did.
And you're right about the numbers, Mike. It was 18,000 people from 27 countries. They came, I think, and I just believe this very strongly, and I'm sure Alison would concur with this. I think you would. They came because of the way the program made them feel. Right. Yes, they liked us, but the reason they liked us so much is because they loved how we made them feel about whatever it was that we were doing. But they had a reaction to it, and they were connected to it, and it gave them something. And when they came to meet us, they get to have that reflection back, that moment where they're remembering how they felt when this happened or that happened or the other thing happened that we're doing on the program. It's a beautiful tribute and honoring of something that had an impact on people, that they come. And that part of it is enormously humbling and gratifying. That that anybody who's coming that distance is coming because it meant something to them. It meant something in their life, and what a gift for all of us. We are so blessed, and it's gone on and on. And we're starting the second half century of Little House Love, and it's rolling right on.
It's not stopping. It's just not stopping. Well, as I said, I was just in France. All the shows were sold out. We're having more events. You go, well, that was the 50th anniversary. It's the 51st. Well, for the 51st anniversary. And so we're going to go up to Sonora, up to Northern California in June and do it all again.
Right. And I mean, how fun is that for you too? Because I mean, listen, all the work that you put in, all the long hours, all the, it's not easy. It's a grind sometimes. And then you could kind of look back. And again, this series came out in 1974. Dean, you came on in 1978 or 79. So 79, you're talking a long time ago. And yet these fans still crave for this series. And they want to celebrate people like you guys. It's got to just be, when you go there, you don't look at it as work. You just look at it as fun.
It's an incredible validation of the work that was done and the love that everyone put into it, the belief that and just the chemistry that everyone had together to do the work. I just think there are so many good things that come out of all that. And I mean, we are among those really lucky casts that have been involved in something that has this ongoing life. That, I mean, there are obviously thousands of hours of television, many tens of thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours of television, maybe millions that have been produced through the years. Relatively few of those have this ongoing connection with an audience, and that there's no way to predict that's going to happen. The fact that it did happen has just been an amazing thing.
You never know what show or movie it's going to be. And it's weird. It's like, I look at other series that came out at the time that were insanely popular and have had every, but it's just not the same phenomenon now. And then it's like things like Star Trek and the Wizard of Oz. We're in like some weird space between Star Trek and the Wizard of Oz for tying into people's lives. And it's odd. I'm like, those are odd choices. But yeah, we're not really like Star Trek, but the following, and then you go, yeah, maybe it's more like the Wizard of Oz. But it's that kind of weird sentiment that we've somehow tapped into. And I'm just like, well, I guess this is what's happening and what we're doing. And so, yeah, we go to these events, and yeah, sometimes they are a lot of work. We're there for a long time and it's hot, but yeah, at the end of the day, we're going, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I did that. It's
yeah, Mike, it's very gratifying. It really is. And when we all of us in the cast have experienced those people who walk up to us with, there are smiles, there are tears, there's emotional connection. They feel, because we've come into this intimate place in their life, we've come into people's homes. We come in their kitchen, in their living room, in their bedroom, wherever it is that they watch television. All television comes into people's homes and lives in the most intimate circumstances they can have. So instantly there is this, their guards are down. It's just flowing at them. We become part of people's lives. I certainly have experienced this as a viewer, where you develop this intense connection to people that you're watching. They don't know you at all, but they don't know you, but you feel like you know them because they've touched you emotionally. And so when they come up to us and share all that, it can be overwhelming at times, but it's so lovely. It really, truly is.
Right. And I think another validation is they're coming out with a Little House on the Prairie reboot. That's been the big thing. And I always felt like it was going to be done sooner. And I know even 12 years ago, they talked about doing like a movie type thing. But now they're going to come out with a reboot series on Netflix. So talk about that a little bit, because I feel like they have you two sort of involved, even if it's, you don't know if you're going to be on the series, but you're going to be involved in the sense that like they're asking you to kind of, help out a little bit with this, whether it's promote it, whatever it might be. But it seems like to me, they want to make sure that the old, the former cast members are included in some capacity.
We're passing kind of a torch here to the new thing, and they want to connect, and they know that the fans of the old show, and it isn't really like a reboot. It's like, as I said, it's almost a prequel. It's a whole other thing. But the connection between the soon-to-be new fans and our old fans has to be maintained. And they want to sort of continue the same values, the same connection to an audience, the same kind of things that were in the show. So, so we're sort of along for it. And, of course, everyone asks us, well, what do you think? What do you think? But we think it's a great idea. I mean, I can't wait for them to go further along in the plot till they get to see who the new Nellie Oleson is. I'm like, I'm there. I'm in. I want to see it. And so we're for it. It's going to be completely different from what we did, as it would have to be. Why would you want to make the exact same thing? Yeah. But I think it's going to have its own trajectory and its own thing, and I think it's going to be good. I'm on board.
Right.
I think we all believe now, unless Alison is holding on to a secret, I don't think you've read anything yet. Other than I've read a breakdown.
Yeah,
we've read a breakdown,
notes,
but nothing on scripting. We have no idea where the scripts are going. But I think knowing, Alison and I both have relationships with the rights holder, who owns the film and television rights to the Laura Ingalls Wilder books. And I think it's knowing them, there is, I think, a very confidently can surmise that the emphasis is to take the story much more along the lines of where the books were. Yeah. And I think in this new environment on Netflix, I think you can do this because seasons aren't 22 episodes. Seasons are 6, 7, 8 episodes. So, look, I think it's going to be hard to do 8 hours of television on these books, but I think you have a better opportunity to maybe stay in the zone, and maybe you're going to spread out a little bit with things. I think that's going to be important to do that, but you're not having to mine this huge amount of material, 22 episodes a season. It can be a different vibe. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all very interested to see what they're going to do. And, we have a sense of where they're going to shoot this now. I don't think it's been publicly announced, but we are getting a sense of that. And I just think it's going to be fascinating. And I really think that we are going to be involved, not ever on camera, but in terms, as Alison said, the handshake, the welcoming into the Little House, the larger Little House family.
Right.
We can all be a part of that. And I think they want us to be a part of that. And I think Alison and I, speaking just for the two of us, and I think for other members of our cast too, I think comfortably say we want to be a part of it in some way. And we can be a handoff. We can be connective tissue, and that'll be a nice thing.
Yeah, it really will. And both of you, you mentioned, Alison, you both have an appearance in June, but you've been kind of on the, touring a lot lately. Talk about some of the upcoming events both of you are going to be involved in.
I am everywhere. I'm heading out to Atlanta tomorrow. I'm going to be at the Outfront Theater in Atlanta. If anybody out there's in Atlanta this weekend, Friday night at the Outfront Theater, it's awesome. I'm coming out your way. I'm in New York on Mother's Day, May 11th. I will be in New York at the Cutting Room. Lovely, lovely place. Where am I between? I'm kind of everywhere. So I'm heading out. Cherry Blossom Festival, a wonderfully wacky event in Missouri, end of the month, 24th through 26th.
We'll all be there, yeah.
But we're all going. Waltons are going. Patrick Duffy from Dallas. Everybody's going. It's going to be great.
Wow.
That's going to be a hoot. So I do New York, and then I'm at Club Play in Nashville. I'm at Club Play in Louisville right after the New York date, the 15th and 16th. I'm doing a Comic-Con in Pasadena. I'm just kind of everywhere. I've got Chicago, San Diego coming up, lots of places. But then June is the biggie for our gang because we're going again to a place where we filmed, like See Me, where we filmed. We're going to a place where we shot the show, and so it's kind of cool.
Right. And Dean, I'm
very well, Alison, we're both part of the organization that's putting our events together. But I think, we're looking at obviously the Simi Valley event. We stepped into this event planning because we had an unfortunate experience with a promoter in Connecticut and in Pennsylvania who we didn't feel by the end of that managed that experience in a way that honored the commitment that fans were making to the program and coming to see us. And so we made the decision to form our own entity called Prairie Legacy Productions. And we have created a licensed relationship with Friendly Family Productions so that we can utilize the intellectual property of Little House on the Prairie. We can use the branding, the logos, that all these things. And so so much of what we've done at the end of 2024 and into this part of 2025 is laying the foundational work in order to do these events. I'd love to be able to say, you could just say, just turn it on and say, yeah, we're going to go do an event. But that's not the way these things work. There is a lot of legal that has to be handled in order to do this. And I think Alison and I have been a part of trying to make that work, put that together in a way that works for both parties, that gives us some room to run, to create multiple events over a period of years. So I think you're going to be seeing Little House events, and it's going to be because of the partnership that's been created between our group and Friendly Family Productions. And I think we are really joined in a very good place now to help keep this Little House love rolling forward. And we're really excited about it.
Well, these events, and the true fans know this, these events are a lot harder to put on than they look. It's like, oh, you get a place. It's a lot of work involved. There's so many moving parts and getting people there and making it happen and making it safe for everyone. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. It's producing a whole show, basically, to throw these events. And the true fans get that. And they see when it's like, oh, yeah, you really did it right. And that's the thing. Some people say, well, I was just going to do this. And they get in over their heads. And it's like, whoops. And they try to like do too much. They go, well, we can do all of these things in one weekend. No, actually you can. And they try to like, we can have this many people. No, they won't actually all fit in that room. And you have to know these things, and you have to make room so that the fans are comfortable, so the actors are comfortable, so that everybody has a good time. And that's a lot of work.
Right.
But we're gonna nose to the grindstone and the Prairie way. We're gonna get out there and plow the field and do it.
And Dean,
go ahead.
And Dean, you had talked about how sometimes it could be overwhelming. It's enjoyable, but it could be overwhelming. And I know many times when you both have done these events, you've got fans that they appreciate you so much and what you did. They just start crying when they're talking to you. And when you see that, I mean, you got to get choked up too, because it's one thing to be a great actor, but you want to be impactful and make a difference and affect people's lives in a positive way. So when somebody's crying to you and they appreciate you so much, I mean, that's got to be like so emotional for both of you as well.
For me, I want to honor their feelings that they're having. I want to respect the experience that they're having. And it's very important to me, Mike, to feel like, and I know Alison feels this way too. We want to give people who come to see us this sense that what they saw was real. What they saw was authentic, that we are the people that we played. And look, there could be a wide range of talent out there, but I think on television, it's mostly when you're seeing people on television, you're seeing people playing space that they're very comfortable in. And that's really important because your material's coming at you and you're having to do a lot, and it's got to be in a comfortable space emotionally for you or for us as the actors, for anybody who's the actor. And when people come to see us, my hope is always, Mike, that they see that what they saw in us was real.
Right.
That there was something genuine in that for them. That's really, really important. To me, that's like maybe the most important part of this, because it all flows from that. If they feel it and believe it and feel safe in sharing those tears, that need for a hug, that if they feel safe there, it's a huge win for them. And the win for them is a huge win for us too. I mean, it is a mutually beneficial, joyous situation when it all works.
And I'll have Kleenex on my table, and I will hug people. So there'll be Kleenex and hugs at my table. Come on down.
I didn't want to end without asking you both. You did quite a few episodes together, and everybody talks about the cinnamon chicken episode, which was a great episode. But is there one that you have that's a favorite that you both did together that stands out to you?
Alison, we were in episodes together, but we didn't have storyline together. There was very little of that for us.
Yeah, it was really when Almanzo first shows up and Nellie and Mrs. Oleson go, oh, well, yeah, but Laura's not going to get him. Well, yeah, we'll have Nellie marry him. And so when we go on full attack mode and try to steal him from Laura, that was really, by the time after that, Laura gets her hooks in him, and then, I don't get as much to do with it. But that episode was crazy. We had all these scenes together, and then the infamous cinnamon chicken episode, which has become absolutely an iconic piece of footage.
Yeah.
Who knew? And cinnamon chicken is delicious. Both of us each have our own recipe.
I love
for
cinnamon chicken.
And it's great.
Yeah.
And the chicken that we were eating that day was perfectly lovely, baked chicken with just herbs on it. It was not poison or anything. And we acting.
Yeah, you never want to really choke the actor when they're doing the work. You always want the actor to be in control of the response that they're having in a situation like that. And I think, and we just sort of lightly rehearsed this, and we just sort of made it happen.
Once we started chewing.
Yeah.
Well, also it's one of those things like I looked at him and his eyes he started to go red, and then he looks at me, and then it's like, it's just started like hysteria feeding on itself.
And then it's like diving or, reaching for the glasses of water and drinking insatiably. And it was a fun little moment. And people have asked me about that scene through the years as much as any other scene I was involved in on the program. What was the cinnamon chicken really like? Was it really hot? I mean, that's like one of the big questions I get.
I went back and finished my piece after the scene. When we were done, I was like, the rest of that, there was nothing wrong with that chicken. I ate it.
It really was an honor to have you both on together. I really wanted to do that, and it was so enjoyable. But you have both done so many things in your career, so many great things, but you will always be associated with this show. And I always say this, that's not a bad thing at all, because you want that one signature thing tied to your career. And I remember a guy by the name of Gordon Thompson. He was on a show called Dynasty. He played Adam Carrington, great actor. He once said that when I die, this will be on my obituary, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And for all the cast, you are always going to be known first and foremost. It's always going to say Little House on the Prairie. And I think that's a wonderful tribute to all of you.
I agree. I'm right there with Gordon Thompson. Is it Gordon Thompson? Yes.
Or Tom. Yep.
Yeah, I'm right there with him. I absolutely believe that. I think Alison probably believes that too. I mean, Little House is going to be in the first line of our obituaries. There's no question about it. It's guaranteed lock.
Best known as. No matter what you do, you'll be best known as.
Yes, always.
I always heard the story they buried Bela Lugosi in the Cape. So hey, just don't bury me in the wig. That's the one thing. Don't bury me.
Well, maybe it should be close by.
It should be nearby in its own little.
Well, I really do appreciate you both giving me some time today. I wish you the best of luck with these events coming up. And I encourage everybody, if you're in their area, come out and see this. I'm going to try to get there on Mother's Day. I think that would be a great way to meet you both. It'll be a lot of fun. And I won't be there. I know you'll have
double time with Alison.
Yeah. That's just mine. Yeah. We got my gigs. We got our gigs. We have so many intertwined things. But yes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But
there will be opportunities to meet everybody.
Right. But I really hope you both enjoy every second of it. You deserve it. And just thank you for everything you've given us fans over the years, because somewhere right now at 7:50 p.m. on the East Coast and 4:50 on the Pacific Coast, somebody is watching Little House on the Prairie. And it's on in somebody's living room. It's on in somebody's bedroom. People are watching it. And you know what? That's a credit to you, your fellow cast members, the writers, directors, producers.
Everybody.
Just a great, great show. And thank you both for giving me some time today. And I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for having us.
And there you have it, folks. The one and only Alison Arngrim and the one and only Dean Butler, two tremendous people, tremendous actors, and they have cemented their place in TV history. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.